Okay, how's it going, y'all? So we're going to read some Comrade Joseph Stalin, The Right Danger and the Communist Party, 1928. Let's go ahead and get into this. Let's see. We're going to read the first chapter. There's a little introduction here, and the first chapter is The Problem of the Capitalist Stabilization. So let's go ahead and get into this. Comrades, since Comrade Molotov has already stated here the views of the CPSU, by the way, this is an introduction to the whole part. We're just going to go ahead and read that and then read the first section. Let's start it again. Comrades, since Comrade Molotov has already stated here the views of the CPSU delegation, I have only to say a few words. I intend to touch upon three questions which came up in the course of the discussion, and that only lightly. These questions are the problem of the capitalist stabilization, the problem of the class battles of the proletariat in connection with the growing shakiness of the stabilization, and the problem of the German Communist Party. I have to note with regret that on all these three questions, both Humbert, Droz, and Serra landed in the quagmire of craven opportunism. Humbert Droz, it is true, has so far spoken only on formal questions. But I am referring to a speech on matters of principle at the meeting of the Political Secretariat of the ECCI, where the question of the rights and the conciliators in the German Communist Party was discussed. I think that it is precisely this speech that forms the ideological basis of the position taken up at this meeting by the minority in the ECCI Presidium. Consequently, Humbert Droz's speech on matters of principle at the meeting of the Political Secretariat of the ECCI cannot be passed over in silence. I said that Humbert, Droz, and Serra have landed in quagmire of craven opportunism. What does that mean? It means that besides overt opportunism, there is also covert opportunism, which fears to show its true face. And this is precisely the opportunism of conciliation towards the right deviation. Conciliation is craven opportunism. I repeat, note with regret that both these comrades have landed in the quagmire of craven opportunism. Permit me to demonstrate this by a few facts. 1. The problem of capitalist stabilization. So we're going to go ahead. This is the first section here. The Comintern holds that the present capitalist stabilization is a temporary, insecure, shaky, and decaying stabilization, which will become more and more shaken as the capitalist crisis develops. This by no means contradicts the generally known fact that capitalist technology and rationalization are advancing. More, it is just because they are advancing that the inherent unsoundness and decay of the stabilization is developing. Yet what did Humbert Droz say in his speech in the Political Secretariat of the ECCI? He flatly denied the shakiness and insecurity of the stabilization. He bluntly declared in his speech that, quote, the Sixth World Congress virtually condemned the vague general formula that the stabilization is unsound, shaky, etc., end quote. He bluntly declared that the Sixth Congress thesis on the third party says nothing about the stabilization being shaky. Can it be considered that Humbert Droz is correct in making this assertion? No, it cannot. It cannot because the Sixth Congress of the Comintern said the very opposite of what Humbert Droz claimed in his speech. In the paragraph on the third period, the Sixth Congress of the Comintern plainly states that, quote, this period, i.e. the third period, inevitably leads to the further development of the contradictions of the capitalist stabilization, to a further shaking of the capitalist stabilization, and to a sharp accentuation of general crisis of capitalism. Mark, quote, a further, okay, so end quote, the capitalism. Mark, quote, a further shaking of the stabilization, end quote. What does that mean? It means that the stabilization is already shaky and insecure, and that in the third period it will become further shaken. Yet Humbert Droz permits himself to scoff at all, including the German Communist Party, who say that the stabilization is shaky and decaying. Who say that the present struggle of the working class is undermining and disintegrating the capitalist stabilization. Whom is Humbert Droz scoffing at? Obviously at the decisions of the Sixth Congress. It follows that, under the guise of upholding the decisions of the Sixth Congress of the Comintern, Humbert Droz is actually revising them, and is thereby sliding into an opportunist conception of the stabilization. So much for the formal side of the matter. Let us now examine the substance of the matter. If it cannot be said that the present stabilization is shaky or unsound or insecure, then after all, what is it? Only one thing remains, and that is to declare that the stabilization is secure. and at any rate is growing firmer. But if we are faced by capitalist stabilization, that is, growing firmer, what can be meant by saying that the crisis of world capitalism is growing sharper and deeper? It is not clear that this leaves no room for any deepening of the capitalist crisis. Or is it not clear that this leaves no room for any deepening of the capitalist crisis? Is it not clear that Humbert Droz has become entangled in his own contradictions? Further, Lenin said that under imperialism, the development of capitalism is a double process. A growth of capitalism in some countries, and on one hand, and a decay of capitalism in other countries. On the other hand, is this thesis of Lenin's correct? And if it is correct, is it not clear that the capitalist stabilization cannot be other than decaying? Lastly, a few words about some generally known facts. We have such facts as the desperate conflicts between imperialist groups for markets and fields of capital export. We have such facts as the frenzied growth of armaments in the capitalist countries, the formation of new military alliances, and the manifest preparations for new imperialist wars. We have such facts as the growing acuteness of the contradictions between the two imperialist giants, America and Britain, each of which is trying to draw all other countries into its orbit. We have, lastly, such facts as the existence of the Soviet Union and its progress and success in all fields of development, in the economic field and in the cultural and political field. The Soviet Union, whose existence alone, not to speak of its progress, is shaking and disintegrating the very foundations of world capitalism. How after this can Marxist-Leninists, communists, assert that the capitalist stabilization is not shaky and decaying, that it is not being shaken by the very course of things from year to year and from day to day? Does Humbert Droz and Sarah with him realize into what a quagmire they are landing? From this error spring the other errors of Humbert and Droz and Sarah. Okay, yeah, so that's for the section 1 here, the problem of the capitalist stabilization. And yeah, this was written by Stalin in 1928, December 19, 1928, delivered at a meeting of the Presidium. So thank y'all for tuning in. Follow me online, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, TikTok, Tumblr, Medium. All of these are Marxist. Hit me up there. Y'all have a great day.